Hi, I'm Mary Poxon, and I'm very grateful to sub for Susan this morning. I'm quite lucky to assist the teaching team. And when I do that, I look at that as my personal physical therapy. I was a dentist for over 30 years. I became disabled and ended up in a chronic pain situation. And it took me on a road to discover that I don't want to live my life in pain. And I became a yoga therapist. I had been a lifelong yogi. And then I discovered Hanna Somatic Education, and it just changed my life. Changed my life so much that it was so helpful for managing, and I use it today, every day, to manage my condition, that I chose to do the training. And then now I'm lucky enough to occasionally assist the teaching team. And what makes Hanna Somatic Education unique is that we have a particular intention. Our intention is to reduce tension in our muscles and improve muscle length. Well, how do we do that? Most movement is controlled by the lower levels of the brain. You have an intention to move. Your cerebellum controls a lot of that. And you get to move, thank heaven. That's great. But in Hanna Somatic Education movements, we change that up. We move very slowly. We'll slowly shorten a muscle and then very slowly release the shortening of a muscle or muscle group, rest. And when we move slowly, we're using a part of our brain, the motor cortex. It's a smart part of our brain. The motor and sensory cortexes are in the cortex of your brain. And the motor cortex is the part of the brain that controls muscle length. Right now, that your motor cortex has organized your muscles in a certain way. And we call that resting length tonus, our muscle tonus. But we can change that and relieve tension in our muscles by doing the slow movement and the slow release. There's a bonus to that. Lengthened muscles have more power. For all the athletes out there, whether elite or amateur or weekend athlete, know that if you reduce the tension and improve your muscle length, when you demand a muscle to contract again, you'll have more power. It's able to move through space, greater distance through space, so it generates more power. So besides Hanna Somatic Education being good for people that have pain, which a lot of people come to it for that, it's also good for performance, for helping you function and move freely through the world. Our muscles get shortened and tense a lot of times through our chronic postures, how we sit, how we move, or regular repetitive motions, let's say in your job or whenever. Surgery, any emotional or physical insult to our soma results in a muscular response. So remember that. We're going to be focusing a lot today on freedom in our center, our somatic center. And if you want to describe your somatic center, if you know the boundaries, the upper border of our somatic center goes from the base of our breastbone and then around the lower edge of our ribs, all the way around it, wraps them back. The bottom border is the top of the pubic bone. So you can see directly in the center, our somatic center is quite long. And so the rest of the bottom edge, bottom border is our pelvis. So it wraps around, it narrows as we come around the side and the back. So this is our somatic center. When we lose freedom in our center, I'm going to do an example. If I can't rotate in the center, every time I reach for something, the stress goes into a hip. Your hips are shoulders, and that's how shoulders and hips start breaking down. If you're free to move, if you have freedom in the center, you can revolve all the way around. Okay, so we'll be emphasizing freedom in the center today. We'll also be modulating our effort and range of motion. When we over effort, other muscles get in on the act. We don't really want that. So we're going to dial down our effort, dial down our range of motion, always moving in comfort. If you feel restriction or discomfort, you're going to dial down the movement, make it smaller. Or if it's not an appropriate movement for you, you're going to visualize it. And that's very helpful. If you start visualizing movements you can't do, it will help you tolerate them in the future. And you're going to approach every repetition as a new and unique event, like you've done it just for the first time. And then your next rep, as if you've done it for the first time. Let's approach this with curiosity and a newness. And really, every repetition is a unique creation in time. Let's see. And so let's start by coming to standing. So if you come to stand, you're just going to stand and just see how you're going to see how your brain is organizing your soma today. And just feel into your feet and stand tall and take note. Are you gripping your thighs, your hamstrings, or your buttocks? If you are, try to release that. Are you locking back your knees? This is a biggie for me. If you lock your knees back, hyperextending your knees, it gives the impression of stability, but it's a terribly unstable position. It also compresses your low back and locks your hips. And you will never see a tennis player or a martial artist with their knees locked back, rarely. We want to be ready to move. And by hyperextending our knees, prevents us from moving forward. It tightens our hips, it compresses our low back. So if you're a hyperextender, you have to start chipping away at that habit. And you can just softly bend your knees a little bit and bend at the groin like you're going to sit back in a chair, and then come to stand soft, straight. Just make sure you're not pushing your knees back. And now sense, are you weighted in one leg more than the other? And are you weighted more to the front of your feet or the back? So you can test that. You can kind of shift your weight from side to side. Does one side feel more familiar? Just kind of gently shifting your weight side to side. And then you can also shift your weight forward and back over your feet, just to sense how you're bearing weight right now. And now I invite you to take a stroll around your space. You're going to check in on your gait. And are you free in your center? Do you sense that your pelvis and rib cage are moving in opposition? Human gait is unique. Our rib cage and pelvis move in opposition, counterbalancing as we walk. And it's essential to be free in the center to have a good gait. So now just make your way back to your chair. We're going to start and do some movements in the chair. Good. So one of the concepts too that we're going to be working with a little bit this morning is direction of ease. Sometimes when you're working, you have a choice of working with one side or the other. I like to find which side it's easier to move. And that indicates to me that those muscles are more primed to move. They're a little bit more contracted. They may be part of a chronic pattern of the way we move. So the direction of ease usually reflects the side where you're more contracted. And so we always will start with the direction of ease if possible. So let's all try that on for size. You're sitting tall. You can have your back supported against your backrest. And you're just going to turn your head. You're going to see it as easier to initiate your head turn in one direction or the other. So just gently turn your head a little bit to one side and then slowly back to center, and then turn a little bit to your other side and slowly back to center. And kind of sense, is it easier for you to rotate your head to the right or to the left? Now, everyone raise their hand if it was easier to turn to the right. Let's just take a little thing. And those that was easier to turn to the left, raise your hand. Good. So everyone is going to rotate your head in your direction of ease a little bit. Turn in that direction. Now bring your attention to your opposite shoulder. In fact, put your hand on your opposite shoulder. If your head is turned right, your hand is on your left shoulder. If your head is turned left, your hand is on your right shoulder. So that your hand is on your upper trapezius. So as you inhale, you're going to start shrugging your opposite shoulder and gently tilt your head back a little bit. You can feel your upper trapezius bunching up, and then very slowly come out of the head tilt, and your shoulder will very slowly descend. You can turn your head back to center in between repetitions and bring your hand down. You don't have to keep it on your shoulder. Let's do a second repetition. Turn your head in the direction of ease. You can bring your hand down and shrug your opposite shoulder. Feel your upper trapezius contract, and then very slowly untilting your head and unshrugging your shoulder as your shoulder slowly descends. Your arm is just hanging down, and then your head can come back to center. Now, if any of you noticed any jerkiness, staccatoing, or if the action wasn't smooth, bravo, you get a gold star. That is revealing areas where the neurological connection is not clear to the muscle. And those are the areas where the muscle is chronically contracted. As we repeat, then right now, your body is discovering, it's going through neurogenesis, where the dendritic ends go into the muscle. They're sending out new little ends where it was contracted. And in your brain, the neurons are sending out spines. It's becoming more differentiated in your motor and sensory cortexes. This is neurogenesis. So when you find this jerkiness, we call that sensory motor amnesia. Bravo, you get a good gold star. Let's see if you can find it. Once again, you're going to turn towards your direction of ease. Gently shrug your shoulder and tilt your head back towards your shoulder a little bit. And then very slowly, untilting slowly, your shoulder slowly descends. See if you find some of that, those uneven movement. And when you've completely released, turn your head back to center. Let's give some love to your other trapezius. So now you're going to turn your head to what we'll call side 2. So turn your head a little bit to side 2. Bring your attention to your opposite shoulder and shrug your shoulder as you gently tilt your head back. Then very slowly unshrugging, untilting. Go slow. When you've completed the release, you can turn your head back to center. Good. Let's repeat again. You turn your head towards side 2. You're going to shrug your opposite shoulder, tilt your head back a little bit. Let's release to a count of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, untilting, unshrugging, 3, 2, 1, and beyond. Continue to release, and then you can turn your head back to center. We'll do one final rep, turn to your side 2. Let's make this minimal effort this time. Gently shrug your opposite shoulder. Control your effort and range of motion. Tilt your head back just slightly. Feel what's contracting and go very slow on your release. When you're completely released, turn your head back to center. And now we're going to give a little love to the levator scapula. This muscle attaches to your top 4 cervical vertebrae and the inner upper border of your scapula / shoulder blade. It participates in all of the actions that I will direct you in. You're going to turn your head about an inch towards your side 1, your direction of ease. Tilt your ear towards the same side shoulder. Shrug your shoulder and tilt your head back a little bit. Feel your shoulder blade come headward. And then very slowly untilting, unshrugging, and your head will slowly return to center. We have we can include the elbow and arm if we like. And so the directions are the same pretty much either way. Turn slightly an inch towards your side 1. Tilt your ear towards your side 1 shoulder. As you shrug your shoulder, glide your elbow in an arc behind you and tilt your head back slightly. As you release, your elbow glides forward. Let your forearm just rest on your thigh. Your shoulder will descend. You come out of your head tilt, and your head will rotate back to center. Now it's your choice whether you want to include the elbow on this next repetition. Turn your head just slightly towards side 1. Tilt your ear towards your side 1 shoulder. As you shrug your shoulder, you can glide your elbow in an arc behind you. Your head tips back slightly. Slowly reverse all those actions. Your elbow glides forward as your shoulder descends. Your head comes out of the tilt and returns to center. So now you're going to come to your side 2. Turn your head about an inch towards your side 2. Tilt your side 2 ear to your side 2 shoulder. Shrug your side 2 shoulder and tilt your head back. And slowly untilting, unshrugging slowly, and your head returns to center. If you're going to include the elbow, I like to just rest with my palm up, my forearm on my thigh. I call this serving cookies. It's kind of cruel because you're serving them and then you're taking them away. Turn your head an inch or 2 to side 2, tilt your ear to that same side shoulder. As you shrug your shoulder, glide your elbow in an arc behind you. Feel your shoulder blade come headward, your head tips back slightly. Then slowly reverse all those actions. Your elbows gliding forward. Your head is coming out of the tilt. Your shoulder descends and your head comes back to center. It's your choice. If you want to include the elbow, you can just shrug if you like, and turn your head a little bit towards side 2, tilt your ear towards your shoulder, shrug your shoulder and glide your elbow behind you in an arc. If you like, your head tips back slightly. Feel your shoulder blade come headward, and very slowly your muscle is lengthening as you untilt your head. Unshrug your shoulder, your elbow glides forward, and your head comes to center. Good job. And now you'll make your way to the floor. If you want me to see you, set up your camera so it shows your space on the floor. And it's a good idea to have a folded towel or a pillow for head support. The pillow, especially for when we go to sideline, I like a folded towel, or you can even have some books or magazines or something to give yourself head support. And what we're looking for is that your forehead is level with or higher than your chin. If your chin is higher than your forehead, your neck is in contraction. So settling into the safety of the floor. And as you settle into the floor. Settling into the floor. Make sure you have adequate head support. You can have your knees bent or your legs long. And release any tension in your forehead, around your eyes, or in your jaw. And notice how the weight of your skull, of your whole head, greets your support. Then trace your awareness down the soft curve of your neck to your shoulders and shoulder blades. And how do they meet the floor? You may notice your shoulder being headward, hipward, or shoulder blade winged out and coming down to your lower ribs and back. Are they weighted into the floor, or are they part of your low back arch? There's a natural curve in our low back. And tracing your awareness down to your pelvis. Are you weighted in one side more than the other? Or in your torso, weighted one side more than the other? And consider your whole right leg and its orientation, and your whole left leg and its orientation. And do you feel even? Do you feel one leg is longer? And just notice how your weight is distributed. And if you were making an impression of the sand in the sand, what would that be? And now let's come up to the front of the body, in between the front of our shoulders. And are your shoulders pinned up towards the ceiling? This is a very, very common with modern living, at our computers, using our devices, driving, brings our shoulders forward. So just note that. And if you had a cord attached to the top of each shoulder, what would that distance be across the front of your chest? Just noting. And as you settle into the floor, take a nice inhalation and just notice, just a gentle inhalation. Notice your ability to expand. And as you rest here, I want to remind you that one of the great benefits of Hanna Somatic Education practice is it activates our parasympathetic nervous system. That is our system of rest, digest, refresh, rebuild, renew, revitalize, repair. And it also turns on the natural drug cabinet in our brain and other organs when we're in this parasympathetic state. It's essential for recovery and rebuilding, and it's good for our heart. And remember that this is a super, super bonus of this movement practice as we move slowly through our practice. So slowly, slide one leg bent and your other leg bent. As we continue on exploring the direction of ease, our first movement will be our arch and flatten. Let's discover if it's easier for you to arch or to flatten. So you're just going to do very small, gentle arch. So as you arch, your soft belly rises, your low back arches, your pubic bone tips down towards your toes, and then slowly let your low back arch release to the floor. To explore the flatten, engage your abdominals, flattening your back towards the floor. Notice if your pubic bone might tip up, and it changes the relationship between your pubic bone and lower ribs. And you just check it out. Is it easier for you to arch, or is it easier for you to flatten? All archers, raise your hand. Good. All flatteners, raise your hand. Okay, arches, you're going to start to do an arch gently and slowly, and then very slowly release your arch, and then repeat arching again. Flatteners will exhale, engaging your abdominals, flattening your back towards the floor. Notice what changes in the front of your torso, shortening in front, and then very slowly release your flatten and repeat. You're repeating your direction of ease. And after you've repeated your direction of ease about 3 times, you're going to start to include your alternate move. Archers, after you've completely released your arch, will engage in the flattening, exhaling, engaging your abdominals and flattening your back towards the floor. Flatteners, after you've completely released the flatten, will gently arch their low back, letting their soft belly rise, and then slowly, completely release your flatten before you engage in another arch. Make each movement distinct. You can pause a little bit in between the repetitions. And then we're going to do about 3 alternating slowly until I ask you to stop. And then complete the one you're on. We're going to do a more expanded version of the arch and flatten. It's the arch and curl. So clasp, bring your hands behind your head. Your hands will fully support your head at this time. Your elbows are wide. If you need shoulder support, put something under your elbows and arms to help support your shoulders. This starts with an arch. So as you inhale an arch, if you like, you can tilt your head back into your hands, extending your neck. And if you have freedom in the shoulders, you can glide your shoulder blades together. And then slowly release your back arch, your head tilt, and your shoulders slowly, and pause. Just breathing easy, easy throughout all these movements. Now draw your elbows together, bring them very close together, at least knee width apart. Notice this is your pectoralis muscles are shortening as you do this. And on an exhalation, tuck your chin and curl towards your knees. Feel what happens in your midline as you curl towards your knees. And then very, very slowly release. You're slowly lengthening. Your hands fully support your head as you slowly ease your way back down to the floor, and your elbows will slowly widen. Good. Let's repeat again. You're going to inhale and gently arch your low back. You can tilt your head back into your hands and glide your shoulder blades together if that's appropriate for you. And then slowly and completely release your head tilt, your shoulder engagement, and low back arch. Breathing easy. Draw your elbows, bring them even closer together this time, almost touching. You're cradling your head. As you exhale, tuck your chin and curl towards your knees. Pause at the top, feel what shortened, and very slowly release. You're lengthening your front. Your elbows will slowly widen. You're getting broader across your chest. Good. Come to rest slowly. And take a breath here. Don't move into the next repetition yet. I'm changing the instructions. This time we're going to do a mini arch. So you're going to make it very small and make it low. Inhale and do a very small low back arch. And then very slowly release as your back floats down to the floor. This time on the curl, we're going to include hip flexion. That means you're going to bring, as you curl, you're going to bring one of your knees over your chest. It's your choice. Draw your elbows towards each other. As you exhale, tuck your chin, and as you curl, bring one of your knees over your chest. And then very slowly releasing. Notice how you preferentially shorten the front of your trunk on that side. Slowly releasing. When your foot greets the floor, you can slowly slide that leg long. Yes. And sense for a moment the opening in your groin and that whole side. And rebend your leg. We're not going to even arch this time. We're just going to do another curl. So draw your elbows towards each other. Tuck your chin and curl and bring your other knee over your chest. Notice what's shortening. And then very slowly releasing. Coming out of your curl, you're easing your torso back down to the floor. You're slowly bringing your foot back down to the floor. When your foot greets the floor, you can glide it long. Once your elbows are open, bring your arms down by your sides. and slowly glide your other leg long. And take a sensory interlude. Good. Notice the sensations that are flooding your body now, and notice the imprint that you had discovered in that initial scan. You may notice some difference, some changes. So you're going to slide one leg bent, and your other leg is long. Your long leg, you're going to point your foot. Notice that your calf contracts. Do this gently and slowly release, pointing your foot. And then when that's released, bring the top of your foot towards your knee. And then very slowly release. And then once again, pointing your feet, notice that your calf contracts. Slowly release that. Your foot comes to neutral. And then bring the top of your foot towards your knee. You can bring your toes towards your knee also. And then slowly release the top of your foot, your toes, and just let your foot be relaxed. We're going to do this long leg psoas lift. If this isn't appropriate, you'll go back to what we just did of flexing, bringing your knee over your chest, slowly bringing your foot down and sliding your leg long. That addresses the hip flexors. But right now we're going to really target the psoas. So that's an option. But let's all try this and see if it's okay for you. You're going to take complete control. You're going to lift your long leg just 2 inches off of the floor. And then very slowly allow your leg to slowly release back down and rest. You're going to make it even smaller. Lift your long leg about 2 inches off the floor. Good. Slowly release back down to the floor. Good. You're going to reposition your long leg a few inches out from the midline. So you're going to bring it out further from your side. Yeah. It's okay if your leg is kind of externally rotated, if your leg is kind of open, it's kind of a natural position where your toes kind of point off to the side. And from this position, you're going to do your psoas release. Lift your long leg about 2 inches. And very slowly allow your leg to rest back down on the floor. Good. From this position, we're going to explore hip hiking. You're going to hike your long leg hip towards your armpit. And then slowly release. Your back isn't arching, it's not flattening, it's just staying neutral, and then slowly release. Let's hike that hip again. Slowly hike your long leg hip, and you could let your armpit come down and greet it. You're shortening that side, your working side. And then slowly release. And now you're going to reposition your leg. You're going to bring it back under, as we started, under your hip. And make it long. And you hike your hip from this position, shortening your working side. Your armpit can come down also. Let your head turn. And then slowly releasing. And now bend that working leg. And lengthen your other leg, your side 2 leg. You're going to point your foot, feel your calf contract, and slowly release. Bring the top of your foot towards your knee, opposite move, and then slowly release. And then point your foot again. Notice your calf contracting and slowly release. And then bring your toes on the top of your foot towards your knee. Notice that the muscles on the front of your shin are contracting. And then slowly release. Psoas, long leg, lift 2 inches. And slowly release. Bring your attention to your groin. The psoas attaches to your femur and then goes diagonally to your pelvis and it attaches to the inside of your your lumbar vertebrae, your 5 lumbar vertebrae. Once again, repeat, long leg lift 2 inches and slowly let your leg come down to the floor. And once it's resting, make sure you're not holding any residual tension. Bring your leg out towards your side a couple of inches. We're just repositioning slightly. Lift your long leg again, just very little, couple of inches, and very slowly allow it to journey back down to the floor. Good. Let's do hip hiking. Hike your hip, slide your hip towards your armpit. Notice your that side, working side is shortening, your other side is lengthening, and then slowly release the hip hike. Your arms should be down by your side now. And once again, hiking your hip, and you can bring your armpit down to greet it. Notice that your working side is shortening and your opposite side is lengthening, and then very slowly release. You're going to reposition your leg directly under your hip, like we had it before. And let's hike from here, hiking your hip, your armpit can come down to shortening your working side and very slowly releasing. Good. And you're going to slide your long leg bent. Okay. And I think Ryan may have covered this a little bit, but we're going to press on some points, 4 points. So press your right shoulder back into the floor and slowly release. Press your left shoulder back into the floor. Notice as you press your left shoulder into the floor, your right shoulder lightens and slowly release. And press your left hip into the floor. Notice your pelvis lightens on the right side and slowly release. And then press your right hip back into the floor. Notice that your weight shifts in your pelvis as you do that and slowly release. Now lift your right shoulder towards the ceiling a little bit. Notice that your left shoulder will rotate back as you do that and slowly release. Lift your left shoulder towards the ceiling. Notice there's some rotation in your rib cage as you do that and allow it to slowly release. Now lift your left hip towards the ceiling. Notice that your weight shifts into your right hemipelvis and slowly release. And now lift your right hip towards the ceiling and slowly release. Now we're going to connect some of these points. We're just going to do the diagonals in back. And this is for people who can't go prone, because we're going to go prone and lie on our bellies next. So those who can't go prone, you're going to be doing this. Everyone can try this on for size. You're going to press your right shoulder and left hip back into the floor as you arch your back. Notice that the opposite shoulder and hip lighten and then very slowly release. Let's do the opposite diagonal. You're going to press your left shoulder and right hip back into the floor as you gently arch. Notice that the opposite pair of hip and shoulder lighten and slowly release. For those who it is appropriate, make your way onto your belly. Stack your hands one on top of the other and rest your forehead on the back of your hands. Or if you have your palms turned up, you can cradle your forehead in your palms. Both positions are appropriate. I'm just going to teach you how to give yourself some neck love. If you feel any tension in your neck, you can keep your forehead on your hands. Just gently nod, slowly nod, yes. And that can help any tension that might build as you do your back lift. You're going to, I'm going to have, we're going to direct everyone. If you were doing it at home alone, you turn your head the direction of ease. I'm going to have everyone moving in the same direction. You're going to turn your head to the right and bring your left arm long by your side. Good. Your fingertips are touching your face, or your cheek is resting against the back of your hand. Or if that's too much neck rotation, turn your nose more down towards the floor, as long as your fingers are touching your forehead or your face in some way. Now notice your left shoulder is going to press into the floor as you lift your right head, hand, and elbow. Inhale, lifting your right head, hand, and elbow. And then slowly release back down to the floor. Now you've probably felt that your left leg wanted to lift to counterbalance. Let's do that this time. As you inhale, lift your right head, hand, elbow, and left leg. Notice that your right hip presses into the floor. And then slowly release back down. Go slow. So the opposite shoulder and hip press into the floor as we lift the opposite head, elbow, and leg. So notice that. Let them anchor you as you lift your right head, hand, elbow, and left leg. Feel the diagonal contraction across your back, and then very, very slowly release back to the floor to rest. When you're completely released, bring your left hand up to greet the right, stack your hands again, bring your head to neutral, and give yourself some neck love. You can even reach around and gently massage your neck muscles. I like to grab the flesh and the skin and draw it up towards the ceiling like a mama cat might do with a kitten. And now we'll go to side two. Your head will turn left. Your hand or fingers are in contact with your face. Adjust your head rotation to be in comfort. Your right arm is long by your side. Inhale. Let's put it all together. As you inhale, lift your left head, hand, and elbow, and right leg. Notice that your opposite pelvis and shoulder are pressing into the floor, and slowly release back down. This is a contralateral move. Our pelvises are rotating in one direction and our rib cage in the opposite. Let's repeat. Let's discover that. Inhale, lift your left head, hand, elbow, and right leg. And then very slowly releasing. Come to rest and notice you're continuing to release. And in the interest of modulating effort and range of motion, you're going to dial down this movement. See if it helps you discover what initiates the movement. As you inhale and lift your left head, hand, and elbow, and right leg, very small this time. And then very slow on your release. After you're completely released, you can bring your right arm hand up to stack on your left hand, bring your head to neutral, give yourself some neck love. Good. Good, good, good. And just rest a moment and just sense that your muscles are continuing to release. And just a reminder, if you have low back pain and you can be prone, this could be magic. This is one of the most direct ways to address some low back muscles. Of course, I like arch and flatten and arch and curl also. So you're going to make your way onto one side. It's your choice. It's a good idea to have a pillow under your head for support. You set yourself up in chair position. Your thighs at 90 degrees to your torso and your lower leg at 90 degrees. to your thighs. So it's as if you were in a chair that was tipped over on its side on the floor. Great. Then just let your arm drape along your side. You're going to inhale and gently arch or sway your low back. Your head may turn a little bit as you do your arch. Allow your head to be free to do these movements, and then slowly release your low back arch. And then now you're going to exhale and engage your abdominals. You're going to go into what we call a flattening curl, what I call a flattening curl. As you engage your abdominals, your low back lengthens. Your head might tip down a little as you kind of curl forward, and then very slowly release your flattening curl. This time, as you arch, you're going to roll your arm open. So inhale, roll your arm open that's resting on your side as you arch. Notice what preferentially contracts in your back. And then slowly release your low back arch and allow your arm to roll to neutral. And now we'll go the opposite direction. Exhale, engaging your abdominals, going into your flattening curl. Roll your arm forward. Notice what contracts in your pecs and your obliques, your abdominals. And then slowly release and come to neutral. That's a nice exercise. That can even be done in bed. Nice movement. And now we're going to explore side bending. The simplest side bend is with your arm just draped along your side, and you gently engage your hip and armpit together, shortening your upper side, the side that's facing the ceiling. Notice that your side that's resting on the floor lengthens, and then slowly release. And if that's the best move for you, you get a gold star. You'll repeat this. For others who want to enjoy a more expansive version, let's set that up. On the lower body, you're going to keep your knees together, glued together. And as you lift your foot, your thigh rolls in, and notice that hikes your hip, and slowly release. Let's put that together with the upper body. Reach your hand overhead, reaching towards your bottom ear. Your forearm is coming over your head a little bit like a headband, your elbows facing the ceiling. You're all in line on your side. And when you're ready, you're going to bring your armpit and hip together, knees glued, lift your top foot, your head lifts, your oblique muscles are bringing you into side bend, your ribs are coming together, and then very, very slowly release, getting new length on your working side. Make sure you're not kicking your heels back towards your buttocks as you do this move. Let's repeat. Before you start, inhale into your ribs that are facing the ceiling. As you exhale, initiate the movement. Armpit and hip coming together, your knees are glued, you're lifting your foot. Notice your ribs come together. You can inhale into the ribs on the floor, which accentuates the curve, and then very, very slowly releasing. When you've completely released, you can straighten your leg straight down from your hip, reach your arm overhead, your fingertips can touch the floor or not. Notice that your fingertips, wrist, elbow, armpit, hip, knee, and ankle are in alignment. Feel the natural elasticity of your side, and then let your knee soften, your elbow soften, and just come to rest. Reposition yourself up into your chair position, thighs at 90 degrees to your torso. We're going to do the clam, which addresses the external rotators of your hip. And we're going to do it at 3 different levels, and you're going to minimize your effort and range of motion. Your feet will stay together as you lift your top knee. Your pelvis also remains stable. Lift your top knee, we call this the clam, and then very slowly control the journey of your knee back to rest on your lower leg. And rest. Now you're going to open the angle of your knees with your torso. So bring your knees down a little bit. You're at 90 degrees now. Come down to about 110 degrees. Good. Let's repeat. Lift your top knee, your feet stay together. Notice where you feel it now. And then very slowly release back down to rest on your lower leg. And now we're going to open it up another 10 degrees, 10 or 15 degrees. Yes, you're still bent slightly. Once again, feet together, lift your top knee. Feel where you sense the engagement, and then very slowly track the journey down to rest on your lower leg. And after you're completely released, you can just slide your legs long and roll onto your back, or make your way onto your back. Get rid of pull your head support to the side for a moment as you stretch out for a sensory interlude. I love to do this in between sides to really highlight the difference between the first working side and the side you're going to come to work with next. And take a nice breath and inhale into the side you were just working with. Notice that your capacity to expand your ribs may have improved. Take a nice breath. Once again, release any tension in your forehead, around your eyes, or in your jaw. Now slowly make your way onto your other side. We'll work with your side two now. Set yourself up in chair position. Bring back your head support. Thighs at 90 degrees to your torso, lower leg 90 degrees to your thighs. Your arm is draped along your side. We're going to include the arm rolling in the arch and flatten. So as your arm is on your side, just draped on your side, your elbow can be relaxed. As you inhale and arch your low back, roll your arm open. Let your arm roll open. Notice what contracts in your back. As you do that, you may want to even turn your head more towards the ceiling, and then very slowly release your low back arch. As you exhale into this flattening curl, roll your arm forward, just rolling on your side. Your shoulder comes forward, your head may come forward and tilt down also. And then very slowly release your flattening curl and let your arm roll to neutral. And let's repeat again. Inhale, arching, rolling your arm open. Let your head be free. Where does it want to move? And then very slowly release your arch and release your arm. As you exhale and curl, roll your arm forward. Let your head be free. Your chin may want to tuck and come forward as you're engaging your abdominals in that flattening curl. And then very, very slowly release and come to just lying in what we call a new neutral position. Those people who like the simplest side bend will just engage their armpit and hip together. Others reach your hand overhead, fully supporting your head. Your knees stay glued, lifting your top foot. Your hip hikes, bring your armpit and hip together. You're lifting your head. And then very slowly release. Go slow. Take your time releasing. And before you do your next repetition, inhale into the ribs that are facing the ceiling. Allow them to expand. Initiate the side bend as you exhale. Slowly exhaling, knees glued, lift your top foot, or just engage your hip towards your armpit. And very slowly release. Good. Let's do that breath again. Inhale into your ribs that are facing the ceiling. As you exhale, go into your side bend. Shorten your side. Now inhale into the ribs on the floor. And what happens? It accentuates the upper curve. And then very slowly releasing, lengthening. When you're completely released, lengthen your legs straight down from your hip, reach your arm over your ear, overhead. Your fingertips can touch the floor. Notice your fingertips, wrist, elbow, armpit, hip, knee and ankle are in alignment. And then just soften your knee and your elbow, just completely relax a moment. Set yourself up in chair position again. We're going to do the clam at 3 levels again. So bring your thighs at 90 degrees. Your feet will stay together. Your pelvis will remain stable. Keep this small. You're going to modulate your effort and range of motion. Gently lift your top knee. Your hand, if it's resting on your buttocks, you might feel your external rotators contract and then slowly release back down to your resting leg. Open the angle between your thighs and your torso. So you're at 90 degrees now, open to about 110. You're going to straighten your legs a little bit and then repeat. Slowly engage in your clam. Notice you're going to feel it, another part of your torso. Make sure you're not listing back, leaning back. And then a third repetition, you're going to even open the angle even a little bit more. Notice as we open the angle, we're going to feel it different areas as you lift your knee and then slowly allow your knee to drift back down to rest. Great. And after you're completely released, you can lengthen your legs and roll onto your back for a sensory interlude. You're stretched out, just lengthening there. What is that impression in the sand now? Release any tension in your forehead, around your eyes, or in your jaw. Take a nice inhalation and notice your capacity to expand in your torso may have improved. Then you're going to slide one leg bent and your other leg bent. And you're going to bring your arms out a little bit away from the side of your body with your palms facing the ceiling, or just, yeah, with your palms facing the ceiling. And we're going to be doing arch and flatten, but we're going to be directing our shoulders to different points. And the first points are going to be just the top of your shoulders. So it's going to start with a flatten. So as you exhale and flatten your back towards the floor, roll your arms in and engage your shoulders in front towards each other. Let your sternum sink back into the floor. And then very slowly release your abdominal engagements and allow your arms to flower open. We're going to go the opposite direction. As you inhale and arch, roll your arms open and glide the top of your shoulders towards each other. Notice that your chest expands. And then very slowly release all efforting as your back floats down to the floor and your arms come back to a more neutral position. Our next point will be right in the center of our breastbone, in front and in back. It will be in between our shoulder blades. Good. So as you exhale and engage your abdominals, roll your arms in and point your shoulders towards the center of your breastbone. Notice your sternum sinks back. And then very slowly flower open as you release your abdominal contraction and your arms come back to your starting position. As you inhale and arch, roll your arms open, glide your shoulder blades together, feel your chest expand. And then very slowly releasing your shoulders, your arms, and your back will just float down to the floor. Our final point here, 2 points here, are belly button and low back. As you exhale, engage your abdominals, flattening your back towards the floor, roll your arms in and point your shoulders towards your belly button. Let your center sink. And then very slowly flower open as you release your abdominal contraction. As you inhale and arch your low back, roll your arms open and let your shoulder blades glide down towards your low back. Feel your chest expand. Your head may want to tilt back. And then very slowly, just go start resting. Your back is releasing, your arm is releasing, your effort, there's no effort. You're just coming to rest. Good. Good. And just notice how you feel, if you feel different across the front of your chest. And so right now, your feet, they don't need to be together. They can actually be hip width apart. We're setting up the wash rag, but we're going to start with the hip rotation and the pelvic rotation first. So very slowly, let your right knee start navigating or rolling to the right, and your left knee will follow. You're rolling on the bottom of your feet. You don't have to go very far. Pause a moment and then slowly reverse. Now your left knee will lead. Start rotating to the left. Your right knee will follow. You're going to come up through the center and both knees will continue to travel left. Notice the weight shifts to the left half of your pelvis, or hemipelvis, as Susan says. And then slowly, as your right knee starts rotating to the right, coming up to center, left knee follows and just come to center. Notice, if you notice it, as you shifted your knees and thighs from side to side, your weight shifted in your pelvis. Your pelvis was rotating also. Good. So just let's let your lower body rest a moment. You're going to bring your arms straight out from your shoulders if that's comfortable. If not, bring your arms closer to your sides. Always move in comfort. I'm going to set this up so it's just easier at the beginning. You're going to roll your right arm open as your head turns to the right and your left arm rolls down. Notice that shoulder blade slides under your torso more. And then slowly reversing, your head starts to turn to center, your open arm starts to roll down, and you start turning your head towards your left arm that is rolling open. Notice that your shoulder blade slides under your torso. And then very slowly reversing. Left arm will start rolling down as your head turns right and your right arm opens. You're going to slowly continue to toggle from side to side. Your head is turning towards your opening arm. Your other arm is rolling down. Notice that that shoulder blade glides headward. Notice what your shoulder blades are doing as you continue this movement. And now you'll start to include your pelvis. As you turn your head to one side to your opening arm, let your knees rotate in the opposite direction slowly. And then as you reverse, your knees will come up through center as your head does, and rotate to the opposite side as your head turns opposite your knee rotation. Just continue to toggle slowly from side to side. How can you make this movement more comfortable? Does it help to have your feet a little bit apart, your elbows soften? Make this delicious movement. You're rotating almost all of the joints in your body, or many of the joints in your body. Notice what's happening with your shoulder blades. Yes, accentuate that shoulder blade sliding under, and on the other side, sliding headward. Connect these movements to the center, to your somatic center, as you continue to toggle from side to side. Good, good, good. And then just slowly complete the pair you're on and take your time. Don't rush it. And when you're complete, and when you've come everything back to neutral, very slowly slide one leg long and your other leg long. Go slow. Do it as a pendiculation, kind of slow. Bring your arms down closer to your sides. Just be comfortable. Again, we're doing this integration interlude. sensory interlude. Let's let our brain, our muscles catch up with everything we've been doing as they continue to release. And as you inhale, notice your ability to expand. And also notice on your exhalation of how your tissues recoil. And be delighted that the neurogenesis, you're building your nervous system now. Your brain is very delighted. Good. So you're going to slide, we'll all work on the same side this time. You're going to slide your right leg bent. And then bring your foot or slide your foot closer to your left leg. Good. Reposition it there. And you're going to keep complete control of your leg. As your knee rotates right, your sole of your foot will start to turn towards your left leg. So let your knee rotate right. You're rolling on the bottom of your foot. Good. Good. And from this position, slide your leg long. Then your foot will come to neutral. Good. And now start turning your sole of your foot back towards your left leg as you bend your knee out to the side, sliding your foot up the side of your leg. Notice that you let your weight sink into your right hemipelvis. Let your head turn as it wants to. Let's repeat. We're more weighted in your right hemipelvis. Slowly slide your leg long. Notice that your weight evens out in your pelvis. Your head may come to neutral. And then reverse directions, turn the sole of your foot inward as your knee drapes out, gliding your foot up the side of your leg. Let your weight shift into your right hemipelvis. Good. And then slowly bring your knee up to vertical. Good. You're going to reposition your foot wider. Yeah, a little bit wider than hip distance. Let your knee and thigh roll to the left and your weight sink into your left hemipelvis. You're rolling on the bottom of your foot. The bottom of your foot will be facing away from you. Evert your foot. And then slowly lengthen your leg. And as you lengthen your leg, notice that your weight shifts back to even. Good. And now you're going to reverse the journey. Start turning the sole of your foot away from you, bending your knee over your other leg. Your foot is wide. Yeah. And then slowly release again, lengthening your leg. Come to neutral. Okay, we're going to come to the left leg. Bend your left leg. Okay, bring your foot in closer to your right leg. Good. You start turning the sole of your left foot towards your right leg and your knee drapes out. Your weight sinks into your left hemipelvis. Let your head rotate. Good. Slowly glide your leg long. Notice that your weight evens out in your pelvis. Your head may turn. Good. Now you reverse the journey. Turn the sole of your foot in towards your right leg. Glide your knee up. Glide your foot up the inside of your leg. Your knee drapes out. Good. And then rest. Just come to rest. Okay. Your knee is bent. You're going to reposition your foot. You're going to make it wider than your hip. Let your knee roll to the right. Notice that your weight sinks into your right hemipelvis. Your left knee is going right over your right leg. Good. Your weight sinks into your right hemipelvis. And then slowly slide your leg long. Adjust how you need to be in comfort. And then we're going to reverse the journey. You turn the sole of your foot away as you start bending your knee over your right leg. Your knee bends over your right leg. Your foot is outside of your hip. Good. Excellent. And then slowly lengthen again. I'm just going to repeat this one more time. Some people to understand better. And let your leg lengthen long again, just sliding long. Good. And then now, once again, the sole of your foot turns away as your knee drapes over your right leg. Good. And then once you've, now bring your knee up to neutral, stand it. Good. And now straighten your leg from here and rest. Good. You're going to bend both knees. So slide one leg bent slowly and your other knee bent slowly. We're going to do a variation of the diagonal curl. We're going to support our head with both hands. Bring both hands behind your head. Good. You're going to inhale and gently arch your low back. Good. And then slowly release your low back arch. Just come to rest. Now listen to my instructions. Draw your elbows towards each other. Good. As you tuck your chin and curl, bring your right elbow and left knee towards each other. Your left knee is coming over your chest. Diagonal curl, left knee over the chest, right elbow coming towards the outside of your left knee. Feel the diagonal curl and very slowly releasing. Good. And once again, this time just do a mini arch. Inhale and just do a mini arch to prepare your back, and then slowly and completely release your low back arch. Draw your elbows towards each other. Turn your head towards the left. As you exhale and curl, tucking your chin, right elbow comes towards the outside of your left knee, elbow and knee coming towards each other, and then very slowly release. Good. Your elbows will widen. Okay, we're going to go the other direction. We're not even going to do an arch here. You're going to draw your elbows together, tuck your chin. As you curl, bring your right knee over the chest and bring your left elbow towards the outside of your left knee. Feel the diagonal contraction, and then very, very slowly release. Go slow. We're going to do one final curling rep, and this time minimal effort. Elbows come together, tuck your chin. As you curl, you're bringing your left elbow and right knee towards each other. And then very, very slowly releasing. And as you release, when your foot greets the floor, slowly slide your leg long. Bring your arms by your side, slide your other leg long, take your time. Releasing any tension in your forehead, around your eyes, or in your jaw. We're coming back to our initial scan. Notice how your skull greets your support now, the soft curve of your neck, your shoulders and shoulder blades, and your lower ribs. Are they in a different position? Do you more weighted into the floor? And bring your attention to your pelvis and your legs. And what do you feel? Do you feel more even? And inhale and check your capacity to expand. And then notice the recoil of your tissues as you exhale. And slowly make your way onto your side. We're just a minute over, but if you can stay with me, we're going to come back to our starting. We're going to check our gait. So come to your side. Your attention's coming back to the room. Rest on your side a moment, and then gradually push yourself up to seated and make your way to standing slowly. And when you come to stand, don't fool with your props. Don't play with anything. You're going to come to stand. It's a new you, new organization. As we began, You're going to stand and find your feet, but check in that you're not gripping your thighs, buttocks, or hamstrings. Check in that you're not hyperextending your knees. Notice, explore how you're weighted into your feet now, forward and back, side to side. And imagine you have a crown of flowers around your head, drawing your top of your head heavenward. Now start walking. Your eyes are on the horizon. Gentle walk. Explore the counter rotation of your pelvis and rib cage as you slowly walk through your space and see how your gait may have changed and your chest broad and open to greet the world. Thank you for joining me this morning.